It's that time of year again. It's almost Black Friday and you're on every site imaginable looking at lift kits for your Subaru. You see all those lifted Subis on Instagram and you want to feed that fire in your soul. I'm here to hit you with a swift dose of reality. I have been driving a lifted Subaru for almost 5 years now with 2 different lift kits, so I've been through all of the pros and cons. So, let's hit them all one by one so you can make a more educated decision on your lift kit. Just a quick note, we will be talking about lift spacers, not springs or coilovers, so some of what we talk about might not be what you experience with your setup. Let's talk about installation right off the bat. I've installed 2 different types of lift kits, an extended stud kit and a direct mount kit. These aren't the official names, but it's what I call them. Extended stud means you get longer top hat studs to replace your stock top hat studs. This usually means taking your struts apart, which is never a fun time, pressing out the stock studs and replacing them with the ones that are in your kit. With direct mount spacers, you're just removing your strut, putting the new spacer on, and putting the strut back in. This does sound easier, but these are usually taller lifts, so they could still be a pain to reconnect everything back together. Some lift kits also have the option to run trailing arm spacers, with the trailing arms being on a pivot. Pushing the wheel down from the lift will also push it forward, so the trailing arm spacers will move the wheels back to the correct spot in your wheel well. One final thing to note on installation, there will be some parts that won't be working properly from the lift. You will have positive camber, which can be remedied, but might be fairly expensive depending on your lift's height. You might also have to leave your sway bars disconnected, which you could delete or fix with other parts. Once the lift is installed, it's important to talk about drivability. Now, how does the car drive after installing the lift? It actually drives exactly the same as it did before. We didn't change anything about the spring or the strut, we just added a bit to the top. Now, on my car, there is a bit of noise, but that is from wheels and tires, not from the lift kit. And I do still have my rear sway bar disconnected, but to be honest with you, it doesn't really change much in the drivability. So if on-road isn't so bad, what about off-road? For this next section, I did want to take you off-roading, but unfortunately, the places that I go off-roading in are a couple hours away, and I didn't have time to do that. But fortunately, I have iPhone B-roll from a previous trip. The amount of ground clearance you will get after a lift will give you a lot more confidence off-road. My car is lifted to 11 inches of ground clearance, which is a big improvement over the stock 7.5 inches from factory. However, this car was plenty capable on stock suspension regardless. Newer Subarus have even more ground clearance from the factory than these older ones, so yours might be more capable than you think. With this additional 3.5 inches of ground clearance, I don't have to worry about rocks or ruts when I'm on the trail. But it's not an excuse to go wild, so still be responsible out there even if your car is lifted to the sky. Some things are too good to be true, right? Any mod you can do can come with problems, and lift kits are no exception. There aren't too many issues that come with lift kits, but there are 2 major ones. The first problem is with CV axles. Now, there isn't one blanket answer to this, but I can't say that you'll break axles all the time with a lift, nor can I say you'll be 100% fine with a lift. It's really a case-by-case basis, but I have noticed some trends. For example, if you have an older Subaru like I do, rarely are you going to snap an axle, at least from what I've seen. I've had to replace axles before, but they had been on the car for years already, and the CV joint just went bad. I do run all OEM axles, although one is a Napa axle, which has been fine so far. I'll keep you updated if anything changes. I do have friends that have broken their CV axles on Crosstreks, some multiple times, but I'm not going to say that all Crosstreks will break CV axles. Just keep that in mind when you're going to lift yours. The other major problem will be tires. If you don't get your camber in check, you will have positive camber, meaning your tires will tilt outwards. If you leave your camber as is, your tires will wear unevenly, leaving you with a much less comfortable ride. Finally, let's talk about cost. Modifying a car properly is never cheap, and if anyone tells you otherwise, you might need new car friends. Lifting a Subaru the right way will cost you more than just your lift kit, and to give you an idea of how much it can cost, I regrettably added up the cost of lifting my Subaru for you. $2,500. Now, I'll admit, this does include my wheels and tires, which do make up part of that 3.5 inches of additional ground clearance. If we don't include them, it comes out to about $1,300. However, that's still not cheap. but I did pay for quality parts, and that's going to come through in the performance. I also did get some parts on sale, and there are even some parts I don't have yet, like for the rear sway bar. So it's going to cost even more. I think with that in mind, we're kind of getting around the $3,000 range at that point. So it's expensive, to say the least. Okay. So maybe this video has made you a little bit discouraged. I did just drop a lot of reality on you as promised, but I want to give you the bottom line. If you want to lift your Subaru so it can look cool, save yourself the trouble, go off-roading with your stock suspension first. If you need that extra bit of confidence or have found your limits with your stock suspension, go for it. If you're still discouraged, let me offer you a bit of insight. I come from the world of car culture, which means I have seen cars modified in all sorts of ways. You might not be one of those people. You might just be the average person wanting to take their car somewhere it's never been before. As someone who has been in traditional car culture, modifying your car is really all about commitment. You have to develop a sense of acceptance to all the sounds and little quirks that you get from modifying your car. It's just all part of the process. But don't let that stop you from getting out there and having the fun and going on the adventures that you want to go on. If you've gotten this far, hit the like button down below. I want this video to get to as many Subaru owners as possible thinking about a lift kit for their Subaru. I did talk a lot about installation in this video. If you want to watch an installation of one of these lift kits, you can click on that video right over there, and I'll see you over there.